What's poppin', y'all? We back with another episode of the Squid Games Aftermath podcast. I am your host, DeAndre, aka Player 288, and today I have the privilege of having one of the most notorious, conniving, sneaky players in the game. Just kidding. One of the nicest, sweetest, smiliest, friendliest players in the game, and that is player number 269. James, what's happening?
What's happening, DeAndre? Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show.
Oh, of course. I love having you on the show, man. It's hard to track you down sometimes, but I'm glad I was able to get you locked down, Coach. I appreciate you showing up to give your perspective on things, and the people have been asking for you. Best believe it.
I'm really excited.
Cool. We're going to jump right into it. James, why did you decide to apply for Squid Games, the challenge?
Yes, I chose to apply for Squid Game, the challenge. It was actually a crazy situation. One of my students, I for the last 4 years have been teaching in Seoul, South Korea, working with students from North Korea. And one of my students was actually the one who first told me about the show and that I should apply for it. And so he, after class one day, just decided to record a short video that we ended up sending in. And that's what started this whole journey. And my whole reason for being on the show in the first place was to try to win that money for my students. Sadly, that was something that kind of got taken out of the show just because Netflix understandably was worried about a response from North Korea. And honestly, talking often about students who had escaped from North Korea usually does not look too good. And that, I mean, of course, is something a lot of companies are afraid of ever since the incident happened with Sony when they came out with that film, The Interview, which then led to a hacking response from North Korea. And so that was something that Netflix was a little worried about. But I still was able to, get really far for my students. I tried to win for them. Sadly, I think if you're caught up in the show, you'll know I did not win that. But it was an amazing journey.
There you go. You won a lot more than the money, I'd say, in the show, but we're going to get to that part. So, James, you find out that, you've been accepted onto the show and, you're getting ready and whatnot. And so the night before you leave home and you're packing your bags, what's going through your head?
Oh, there was a lot going through my head. Part of me was like, oh my gosh, I'm insane. Why did I ever think to do this? But the other part of me was excited, to just embark on this new journey, to get to go to London, of course. That was so exciting, and meet so many people from around the world. That's something I'm incredibly passionate about, meeting people from many different cultures and countries and places. And I think that truly was one of my favorite aspects of the show, that people came from everywhere. And we all came from different backgrounds, but we all lived together in that dormitory, and we got to know each other so well. And it really was. I mean, it was a beautiful experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was, all these people, you talk to way more than you expected to in the game, and they have a big impact on your life that you never kind of expected. So definitely a blessing, I'd say there. So we get out of there, you head on the plane, get to London, take a few days to quarantine and all that jazz. And it's time to go to start the game. So how are you feeling when you get on the bus and you're headed to the first game?
Oh my gosh. My heart was pounding. I was so nervous. I was also very, very tired. It was early. It was early in the morning and it was cold. And we were in our tracksuits vibing. They were telling us not to talk to each other, but most of us were not really listening to that. And kind of funny, I actually was seated very close to Rick on my bus. And so right off the bat, we became really good friends. And he was someone that I was talking to very early in the game, even before the first game started. So yeah, he was someone that I really bonded with very early on. And of course, it was so great to just see how he's just thrived. And he's definitely a fan favorite. So that's been amazing to watch as well. But yeah, my heart was pumping, nervous, getting ready for that long drive that took us then eventually to the very first game.
And that ended us at this hangar in the middle of nowhere. And so when you get in the hangar and you get in your tent and get your stuff, and you can see kind of what it's going to be based off the top. You can see like the clouds and whatnot. So it's red light, green light. But when you first walk into the red light, green light arena, what's going through your head?
I was amazed. Honestly, right off the bat, I was like, this is absolutely incredible. The people who created the sets for the show, like they should win all the awards that you possibly could win, because every set was exactly the same as the original show. I literally felt like I was in Squid Game, which of course that was their whole goal the entire time. And they
Yeah,
definitely went above and beyond. I was blown away.
yeah, amazing. I could never stop talking enough about that set. Whew. Well, we get in there and they explain the rules, obviously. And we do our practice rounds. And so it's time to get ready to start the real round. So what's your strategy going into this?
So right away, I knew that I was going to have a bit of an advantage. And I think it threw a lot of people off when they announced that the doll would be singing in Korean. I think a lot of people had watched the show with like English dub, so they didn't know, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to know when to stop if I don't know what the Korean phrase is? And so I was able to get a lot of alliances very early on by teaching people the Korean phrase, the "Mogungwa gochi piet습니다," which I'd played the game so many times with my students, and so that was something that I knew incredibly well. And even like Leanne and Trey, they became two of my alliances very early on because I was able to teach them that phrase. And so that was really cool that I was able to share that with a lot of people, just because of course, the fact that I've lived in Korea for the last 4 years, working with students from Korea. And that is a very popular game in Korea. And so that was amazing that I was able to get those alliances while also getting to help a lot of the people who were around me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember, you were in my tent. I don't know if you remember at all, but you were in my tent before the game started. So I saw everybody, listening and whatnot. I was like, okay, I got it. I appreciate you. And that's where I met Leanne as well and Trey. So getting ready to start. And so hit the line, the doll starts singing, you go, and then you stop. So 5 minutes pass, 10 minutes pass, 15 minutes pass. What is going on in your head?
Oh, it was so painful. And I was so cold. Like, that was probably one of the most painful experiences of my entire life. I know we all say that. It's like every single person who talks about that game has said it's the most painful experience. And I just I can never convey enough to people how hard that game was. My hands, even after the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then hour, my hands were already turning purple. It was so cold in that room. I was dying.
Yeah, no, it was not for the weak, I will say. I mean, they definitely put it on us in the way we could never have imagined.
Yeah.
Whew, man, I'm getting cold just thinking about it.
Same.
But we move. So the game continues and you move in step by step by step. And all of a sudden, you find yourself getting close to the end, to the finish line. So what's going on in your mind when you see that finish line in sight?
When it was so close to me, part of me was just thinking, there's no way that I'm going to get out. I've been in this room for over 8 hours. I'm not going home. There's no way. And the time, it just kept ticking down. And I was a part of the final group. So that moment in the show where you see Leanne embrace Trey, there's a moment where she hugs him and you just see a person fly by them so fast. It's like a flash. And that was me. That was me just trying to survive. And really sweet. There was actually a moment where I honestly, my legs were shaking so much because it was so cold and I was really dehydrated. But Leanne, she was behind me. And at that point, we didn't really know each other's names, of course. But I just remember her saying player 269, you've got this. You've got this. And it was such a encouraging moment where I was like, you're right. I do got this. I'm not going home. I survived 8 hours of this horrible, horrible situation. And I want to see that dormitory. And so, yeah, that was one of those moments that really just pulled me through.
One of those moments that pulled you through and it pushed you on. So player 269 advances and he's moving on to the next round to get that money for the South Korean students. Okay, let's go. We finished that and we get ready to get inside the dorms. Now, before we get in the dorms, I will touch on this real quick. So we had to get in these tents before we went into the dorms to I can't remember what we were doing in those tents. Just chilling, I guess. They think we were preparing the dorms last minute and whatnot. We were there for a while. So we get to meet for the first time
Right.
in there. I don't know if you remember that, as we didn't really meet in the tents prior. I just saw you teaching people things, and I just like creeped around. But this time I meet you, we're sitting in the chairs, because Leanne is in this tent as well. Steven's in this tent. Dr. Rick is in this tent. I vividly remember a lot of people in this tent.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember when I saw James the first time. He was smiling, quiet, not quiet, just sitting there smiling, minding his own business. And I walk up, and I was like, hello, introduce myself, and I was like, man, you made it through the game? How'd you make?
I was
I
dying,
said it.
DeAndre.
And he just, smiled and like, oh, like it was hard, but I got it. I was like, oh, this man, I can tell you got a good soul just by talking to you for the first time.
So
So
sweet. Thank you.
just want to throw that little tidbit out there. So when we walk into the doors for the first time, tell me what's going on in your head.
I mean, again, just amazed at how well they built those sets, of course. And then immediately was just thinking, oh my gosh, like it's time to start making friends with people, getting to know people. And I mean, you were someone, DeAndre, where I always felt very comfortable talking to you in there. I feel like, yeah, you honestly, so kind. And I feel like you became friends with people very easily while we were in the dormitory. Because that was a big part of the game. You had to become friends, you had to create alliances. And I think for some people, it was more of that game. But I think for myself and for you as well, it was just natural. We were genuinely just becoming friends with the people that we were meeting in there. And I think that was one of my favorite parts of the whole experience.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not someone who tries to force something just, have a game alliance with or anything like that. I need to know you genuinely in order for me to kind of go further with that. So, that part of the game too, it's just meeting people. And my strategy was just to meet people. Were you trying to like meet just everybody you can, or just, find a certain group of people?
I think earlier on, I literally was just trying to meet as many people as I could, you know? I mean, that definitely came in handy later on. I mean, there were moments where people were literally eliminating people just for the fact that they'd never talked to them. And so I wanted to make sure early on that at least everyone in there knew a little bit about me and knew why I was there. And so I felt like every person I met was giving my little spiel like, yes, I'm from Korea. I work with students from Korea. That's why I'm here. I'd love to win the money for my students. And I feel like very early on, that's pretty much what all of us were doing. We were just kind of like, yeah, given that, like, why did you come here? Why are you in this game? And that's
Yeah.
something that you don't get to see as much in the show, of course, because I feel like the show, they want to show more of that just like cutthroat mentality. But most of the time, it genuinely was just us like, yeah, chatting, getting to know each other, talking about our lives, sharing our stories.
Yep. 100%. 100%. So getting in there, having a good old time, but then all of a sudden it's interrupted by an abrupt alert saying that player 200 has been eliminated. So when this happens, what's going on in your head?
I was so sad. I'd literally talked to them that day. And I mean, it's crazy. When we were in that dormitory, and I mean, even to like, yeah, like before the show aired, none of us knew. None of us knew who had eliminated him. I had no idea that it had been Danny and then that guy from Kentucky. All of that over my head. Had no idea. We were just like, somebody in here eliminated Moti for some reason. But I was shocked.
So you didn't find out till the show aired?
No, did you know?
Yes.
I had no idea.
So 101 Kyle, he kind of told people, he told his alliance members who did it.
Okay.
And then I found out through one of his alliance members. So
I had no
and
idea.
the girl, I didn't know it was the girl until I got eliminated, and she was in the hotel. So
She was so
felt
sweet.
pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
She was good about hiding that though.
yeah, she was slick. I mean, I wouldn't have assumed anybody did it, but I wasn't even noticing. So, but yes, we lose play at 200, and it's time to soon start the second game. And I know I've spoken to you this personally, but we'll go through it for the people. We walk into the white room, and we, seems obvious it could be Dalgana. So when you walk in the white room, what's going on in your head?
Well, right away I'm stressed because there's 4 lines and they tell us to get into 4 lines. And I remember that like right away, I ended up in a group like just by line number 4 with Leanne, with Trey, with Figgy, with one of our friends Bridget, and a couple other people. Dash was part of that group too. And I remember we were just talking, and I told them all, I said, the number 4 in Korean culture is a curse. It's evil. It represents death. And so I feel like we shouldn't choose line number 4 because we were right by 4, and that's what we were leaning towards. And when I told them that, they were like, yeah, let's definitely not be in line 4 anymore. And so we, because I said that, literally all as a group went over to line number 1, which is how we ended up there in the circle line.
Well, very smart intuition. You leaded the pack once again and helped people out, as it's a common theme to get the quality line. And ultimately, it was pick a line, but ultimately ended up, first group goes in there, boom, they're out. Second group goes in there, boom, they're out. Third group goes in, and then they decide the shape order, which is the line order essentially. And yeah, that's how it is. That's how it turns out to be. And there you go. You got circle. I actually did get to talk to your circle captain earlier today, Mark.
Wow.
He's doing well. So he
so
says
awesome.
hello. So yes. So you end up getting circle. Congratulations once again on the path to victory. And so but before that, you got to do the cookie. So when you walk into the doggone arena and get your cookie, what's going on in your head?
I'm nervous, but honestly, of all the games, I think that was one of the ones that I was a little more confident in. I had played Dalgana a lot in Korea. Like I'd experienced that. And I'd done the circle one many times. And so honestly, although yes, of course I'm nervous, there's a lot on the line, I felt more confident about that game. I would have been very nervous if I had Umbrella. Like, I mean, obviously. Yeah. But circle, I felt more confident with that.
Okay, he was confident, and the confidence is key. And he got the key to unlock that circle and get it done in no time. Congratulations, James is making it on to the next round. 269 is dominating the show. Man, I got my money on him right now because he's leading other people along as well. So we get back into the dorms, and there's this telephone booth. Are you thinking about touching this telephone?
No freaking way. I was not going to touch that thing no matter what.
He said, no way, alligator. And yeah, so smart decision because, it gives some people some rewards, some pizza, some donuts and whatnot. But ultimately, it did somebody dirty, and that was 198. He soon gets sent off to the Shadow Realm, whisked away, and there is no Monster Reborn card. So
nope.
He's
was gone.
Out of here. Good riddance. So we move on into the third game, and we get to walk in the white room again, and there's 8 lines this time. So now what are you thinking?
Honestly, at that point, I was stressed, mostly because, of course, we thought it was going to be tug of war. And a lot of people had already created their own teams. And I quickly realized that I was not any of those teams. And so I actually ended up with so my friend Lexi and Perna. And super ironic, we ended up in line number 4 just because there was nobody else. I wanted to be in another line, and then I ended up in freaking line 4, which I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good symbolism. After I've told everybody, don't be in line 4, we end up in line 4. And then it was literally just the 3 of us. And when you watch the show, there's a moment where you hear TJ yelling, and he's saying, come help them, they need help over here. He was literally saying that about our line, because it was just the 3 of us, and nobody wanted to come to our line. But crazy, that line ended up being the line that Steven and Rick and the whole Gangbu gang joined. Yeah, I am an honorary member of the Gangbu gang, which you don't get to see necessarily in the show, but I am for life. I've got the patch. R. Kelly, he sent us all patches of the Gangbu gang. So our crew.
Really?
Yeah, Robert Kelly. Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't know you had patches.
Oh yeah, he made patches for us.
Okay.
I wish I had it.
Nice.
I don't think I have it on me right now.
Oh, look at you, man. All part of all these groups and alliances and leading things. You really taking charge. So you got your line, and it's time to go inside. And so when you get inside, confident, but then you see it's not tug of war. It is warships. What are you thinking?
I was so happy. Mostly because I have to be honest, I wasn't really confident in us winning tug of war. I did not think there was any way we were going to win that if it was that. Yeah, I mean, we had some strong guys. Like I said, we had Steven. We had a bunch of guys that had like the dad strength, like Dan and Marcus. They were both, yeah, really strong. But I was not confident about that. But yeah, when I found out it was warships, I was like, oh, we could totally win this. Definitely. We had a lot of smart people on our team. And so I knew that was something that we could definitely thrive at.
James is feeling good about this. And so, how do you guys decide your captains?
So they basically said, we want you guys to give a speech to say why you would like to be a captain. And right away, Dan was like, yo, I've played this so many times with my son. I'm really good at this. And all of us were like, yeah, sure. Mostly because honestly, one of my strategies in the game was never volunteer for anything. So there was no way that I was going to volunteer for that. But I was like, hey, more power to you, Dan. You can be our captain. I trust you. Aye, aye. And then he ended up choosing Joel, who was one of my friends from Seoul. He's actually a K-pop idol. And he ended up being our lieutenant.
Hey, so did you know Joel before the show?
I did not know Joel before the show, but we got to, see each other a bit when we were back in Korea.
Okay. So the game gets started. And so you guys are the red team? Which team?
Oh, I don't know. Did we have colors? Blue, maybe? Ganbu gang.
Well, okay. Y'all the Ganbu gang. And Figgy is on the other team, correct?
Yes. Figgy.
Okay, she's on the other team. So you guys get your first ship sunk. You guys get your ship sunk first. The 2 boat. Correct? I'm following right now.
So we hit their boat first.
But you get your ship sunk first.
Yes,
your 2 boats. Yes.
Yeah, it was really
so
sad.
You get 218 and 414 are eliminated off your boat. And you guys hit the other team's 5 boat and eliminate that, which is Figgy 33, 103, 248, 297, and 35.
Yes.
And then you said what?
Do you want to know some tea about that as well?
Go ahead. Spill it. It's the time to do it, man.
I feel really, really bad about this. But when we were trying to come up with places to hit, and this is super funny because later B in the episode, I didn't even know this. She had said the place that most people always want to choose first is C3. And when we were playing, this is just kind of ironic, but the dorm I lived in, or I was an RA when I was in university, and it was C3. I called it C3 is the place to be. And so when they were asking for places that we should try to hit, at that point we hadn't hit anything. And so I literally yelled to Dan, I was like, choose C3. And he was like, C3? And I was like, yeah, it's gotta be C3. And he put C3 up there, and that just happened to be the first hit that we got on their 5-seat boat, which was Figgy's. And so I feel bad, but at the same time, it was what led to us winning. But oh, so sad.
Oh, dang, James had to come up with the plan to give to Dan, and he came through.
Yeah.
Well, C3 was. Hey, that was crazy. I mean, your guys' game was definitely insane. So yes, you guys sink their 5 boat. And then, there's now it's 50-50 chance to win. Then it gets down to close, down. Everyone's hitting each other's boats at this point, and so it's getting tight. And so they very dramatized on television, but you guys eventually end up sinking their 3 boat before your guys' 4 boat gets sunk. Yes, because it was Trey, Leanne, Steven. No, Trey and Leanne weren't on your team.
Ours was Steven, Rick, and a third person? Maybe there's
someone else. It was someone else on that.
Rick's boat.
Yeah. But you guys eliminate 107, 190, 194, and 367. And you guys win. Congratulations. James is moving on in the game and taking care of business and helping his team win this time. He's not in the shadows anymore. He in the TV show, he's in the shadows. But in real life, he is making sure that things are getting done. So congratulations. And so we get back into the dorms, and there is 73 people left. And so now the guards come out and say there will be 2 tests before the next challenge. First one, they bring this Pac-Man looking box out and say, all right, 3 players need to be eliminated. What are you thinking? Are you worried about yourself, or what's going on?
I definitely wasn't worried about myself, But I feel like the theme of that day was trying to decide, like, who are we going to vote for? Who should we vote out? And I remember, you can even see it in the show. There was one moment where Dr. V, he straight up is like, we should play a game to decide. And on my face, you can see I'm just like, no, I'm not going to play another freaking game. That's all we've been doing. And I don't want to play another game to decide who's going to get voted out. And yeah, it's just a funny moment where, I mean, I even think back to it. I'm just like, well, why would you ever suggest that? And it did. It put a target on his back. A lot of people were upset about that. And I think that is what led to his eventual elimination.
Yeah, no, definitely you got to keep your mouth closed and just let things happen and make sure people don't know your number, if anything. But yes, ultimately, we have 3 people eliminated: 367, 394, 374 Andy, 330 Dr. V, and 161 Lorenzo. Who did you vote for?
I gotta be honest, I voted for Lorenzo. I love Lorenzo. But, and this was something that actually I had a conversation with Leanne prior to that event, prior to the voting. I was going to originally vote for Dr. V, mostly because what he'd said about that whole game and everything had frustrated me. I love Dr. V too, but I was going to vote for him. And when I mentioned that to Leanne, Leanne said, no, I'm not going to vote for him. And Total Queen, her reasoning, she said, I refuse to vote for anyone who's a woman or anyone who's like a POC. Like, she straight up said, I'm not voting for a woman and I'm not voting for a POC. And I was like, you know what? I stand that too. I'm not going to do that either. And so that's what eventually led to me voting for Lorenzo. Because I love Lorenzo, but there had been some moments where, you know, he just rubbed people the wrong way. He's just got one of those funny personalities.
But he didn't rub you the wrong way.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he was always, yeah. And he's just funny. He's just like a hilarious guy.
Yes, Lorenzo is hilarious. If you haven't checked it out, check out Lorenzo's podcast with me. It's pretty good. So those 3 are gone and whisked away. Now there's a second test, and that test is the guards bring out 6 boxes, and they say they need 5 volunteers. Are you thinking about being a volunteer for this one?
No way. And I was so sad that Joel volunteered. I was like, Joel, what are you doing?
Yep, that was the case. And so, yeah, we get 5 volunteers. We get 375 Joel. We get Jesse. I always forget his number.
Yeah.
We get 130 Jacobin, 229 Felicia, and 79 Kyle. I could have his number wrong. And so, yes, as we commence, Joel self-eliminates. Felicia eliminates Dr. Rick, Steven, and Jacobin gets an advantage before, but then he gets eliminated right after.
Yeah.
And then Kyle eliminates Darius, and Jesse eliminates. Crazy. Well, I just talked to Kyle today, and he, you know, his podcast is popping up tomorrow. So if you want to find out why he did what he did, check it out. It's pretty good and pretty interesting, actually. I'd say very interesting. Unless you want the scoop real quick. He decided to eliminate because he was told by Dash to not trust Darius.
To not trust their alliance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did
Dash
not
running
the alliance. I mean, that was a good crew.
Yeah, but they got sold on by someone. And then Jesse eliminates Dash and 26.
Yeah.
And we move on to now there's 63 people. Yeah, 63 people. And so it is time for some people to do some chores, and people go in there, do some chores, and they complete this task, and they get a reward for everyone. And that is a nice, good old fashioned American picnic.
Oh, I was so
What are you
excited.
feeling when you was excited?
Yeah. I mean, as I said in the show, I was really hoping it would be chicken nuggets. It sadly was not chicken nuggets, but it was a lot of really good food.
What was in the picnic basket?
Oh my gosh. They had gummies, they had pies, they had barbecue chips, literally every single good like junk food you could imagine. And I was so happy. I was eating everything. Oh, my favorite, the fruit. Oh my gosh. After being in there for so long with no fruit, the strawberries. They were so good. Probably the best strawberries I've ever had in my entire life. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh gosh, a king's feast before
Mhm.
war. So,
Yes.
but then we find out that there are marbles in the bottom. So, who do you pick to pair up with?
So sadly, I mean, Lexi and I were really good friends, and we just happened to be really close to each other when they said like pick a friend. And we were like, oh yeah, totally. Come on, Lexi, let's go. Sit down. We're eating our picnic. There's even a moment in the show where we can see us just high fiving. We're so happy, and then we hear Perna from behind yell, "There's marbles in the basket!" And immediately, both of us, our hearts sunk. We were so sad.
Oh my gosh. Did you start crying?
No, I was not crying all the time in the show. Literally everyone, I feel like the only scenes they really showed me were me like absolutely bawling.
Ooh.
There were
Yeah.
some tears and marbles. I'm not gonna lie. They don't
Okay,
even show.
okay.
They don't show Lexi and I's game in the show in the episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of just skim over you guys. But yes, it's marble time and it's time to get into the marble arena
Yes.
and get the game going. So what do you guys tell me what your guys' game was and how the game goes?
So we also did a throwing game, which I'm guessing is why they didn't show it. I mean, everyone was doing a throwing game, which in hindsight we probably should have done something that was more unique. But yeah, we decided to do a throwing game. But the ironic part of our throwing game is that both Lexi and I are equally terrible at throwing things and trying to make it. We had like dug a little hole and we were trying to make it into the hole. And yeah, neither Lexi or I ever made it into that hole. And so in the end, yeah, we just counted the ones that were the closest, which we had said we like because you had to make your rules before the game started. And so the rules we had made were that whoever had the closest marbles to the hole in the end, they would win. And so afterwards, yeah, we just counted them all up. And it was really sad because like even prior to us playing, like we had talked about why we were there and I talked about my students and wanting to like use that money to be able to help them and help our school. And Lexi, that just like she's such a kind person and it really touched her heart. And so I remember like just both of us just crying about that and really just bonding. And I think both of us just yeah, of course we're very emotional during that game. And even if you like as you watch the show, you might notice that game, like post that, all of us were just so emotionally drained. And that was just the beginning of that. And that's, I mean, later on, some of those very sad emotional moments that you see I experienced, I think it really started like that at that game. Like just all of that like emotional drainage that took place in the marbles game. It really was painful.
Emotional damage.
Emotional damage. So real.
Yes, y'all was emotionally damaged up in there. Actually, that guy was at the event last night in LA
I
too.
know. I wanted to meet him. My students love that. They quote him all the time.
Oh gosh,
So
see,
cool.
Netflix call this man and send him to the events, man. Come
Yeah, come
on,
on, guys. You got me on screen sobbing.
I know. At least do something. Come on now.
Mhm.
But I digress. So, but congratulations, you make it past marbles, and you are in the top 31 players. How does it feel?
I mean, it felt so surreal. Like walking back into the room and there only being 31 of us was absolutely crazy. After being in that room with like over 100 people, of course, close to 200 people in there. And then just going to like 30 people, it felt so quiet. Like going to the bathroom felt so weird because I was so used to like going there and just everyone would be talking and you'd be able to like, yes, hey guys. But suddenly it's just like, oh no, like this is real. And it also changed the way that we all thought of the game too. Like going, I think literally coming out of marbles and then going into that room with 31 people, suddenly looking up at that money and the pig and the whole situation, it was like, wow, I literally have a chance of winning that. I have a 1 in 31 shot of getting that. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it does start playing like, yeah, kind of games with your mind where you're just like, wow, like I could do a lot of amazing good things with that money if I were to win it. And I started thinking
Yeah, no,
about
I definitely. I think the shift from 63 to 31 was the biggest kind of like difference because 63 is still a lot of people to like, it's still a quality amount of people. I mean, it's 60 people. But that change for like that is just drastic to a point where wow, like it's super noticeable and it's empty. So the vibe definitely is changing. So it is time to have the next test. And the announcer says it will begin soon. And they said, you guys need to nominate a leader. You guys decide to nominate TJ. Are you on board with this plan?
Yeah, totally. I was totally on board with TJ being the leader. Yeah, I mean, he is. He's a great leader. And we all knew that that was something that he'd be willing to do. And I think for many of us as well, again, my strategy, don't volunteer. I would not have wanted that role. Yeah, I do. I think of myself as a leader in a lot of ways, but I would rather be the quiet leader that's in the back helping lead from afar, rather than the one
Mm-hmm.
that is leading us into battle.
Respectable, respectable. So TJ is the leader, and everyone's cool with this except Chad because he was asleep. But hey, told Chad you got to stay up. Come on now. He says he would have nominated Mai as the leader. So that's that little tidbit. So the announcer comes back and says, "Choose your friends wisely." When you hear him say this, what's going on in your head?
Oh, I mean, immediately I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Like all of us were just like very worried, anxious. For myself, I felt like other people in the room might know information that I might not know. And so I think for a lot of that day, it was just me like going up and talking to people and being like, what's going on? What do you think that means? Trying to get any information that I could. And also, I mean, of course,
Mhm.
just like making sure that my friends have my back, asking them if they've got my back, telling them that I've got their back. I don't think anyone in there was worried about me. I think most of them knew that I was, of course, someone who was playing genuinely and that I wasn't gonna stab anyone in the back. Like that's just not how I play. And so, yeah, I think a lot of us were very on edge that day. That was another extremely draining day, just leading up to that test. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, it is time to get the test started. And since the announcer says since TJ is the leader, he automatically advances into the next game, which is everyone is shook hearing this. Then they announce that he must pick one ally to go along with him to the next game, and then they must continue picking people until there's only 20 left. So when you hear these rules, what are you thinking?
Oh, when I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like back in elementary school. We're going like on the line, picking people. And honestly, in my head, I was just trying to guess each round who everyone was going to choose. Yeah, kind of like almost like making this like somewhat of a bracket in my head of like what what way will I end up potentially up there with them as well, you know? Like if this person gets chosen. There were some people like even at that moment where Trey mentions the fact that like I was friends with like Elliot and Roland and with Hallie, of course, that he knew like those were people that like I would in my head guess like maybe they might choose me. But I also knew that like again, if Elliot got up there first, he probably would not choose me first. He would probably choose Hallie first. He would choose Roland first. And so it was one of those things where it was just like, who would be that person? Who would be the one that was like, I really want to choose James. I really want him to be up there with us as well. And that ended up being Trey.
If do you think if Trey picked first, he would have picked you second?
I do. I do actually think that. Trey is someone who we became really close friends during the game. And of course, yeah, I love his mom so much. And Leanne and I had so many good conversations and moments throughout the game. And they're two people who, again, I just feel very at home with. And I've loved getting to know them more, and just those friendships has developed over time. And I'm excited to get to see them outside of the game eventually. But yes, yeah, Trey was someone where I was like, if he gets chosen, I feel like he probably will choose me. But also in the back of your head, there's also that thought of like, what if he doesn't, What if he doesn't choose you? And I think that's what I was kind of going through in that moment that you see when I'm truly just like, yeah, like I'm having that emotional response. I was crying, of course. And a lot of people are like, oh, you must have been so scared. And what I've been telling a lot of people is that it wasn't necessarily that I was scared. It was that moment when Trey said, I need to choose this person because I know that my mom would kill me if I didn't choose them. And that is the moment that I really started crying. And it wasn't tears of like, oh my gosh, like, oh, yes, I made it. It was tears of, wow, no, like I genuinely made these incredible friends in here who did end up having my back. It was real. It wasn't something that was just in my head. He was willing to let me be that person that goes in the final 20 with him. And that was just, yeah, such an incredibly honoring moment. I felt very humbled. I felt very thankful. to get to know that, yeah, truly those friendships were real.
Yeah, definitely. So when TJ, there's two ways I want to phrase this, but I'll just go one by one. So I'll go through so when the list starts, TJ picks then Mai picks Chad and whatnot. So the list is going down, and then you hear this feminist, not feminist, let me not say that. The female alliance pops up, and they start, giving their speech and whatnot. What's going through your head when you hear all these things right now? Because it puts you in danger.
I loved it. I totally supported it all the way. And I was like, you know what? Like, pop off, girls. This is awesome. Because truly, it was in that room not a fair situation. There were more guys than there were girls. I mean, they sent home 11 guys with that test. And I think that was something that needed to happen. And of course, those 11 guys, like, I do feel for them. It's a sad situation. But the reality is that nobody wanted a game in which it would have been all men up there. That would have been lame. I wouldn't have watched that. Nobody would have wanted to watch that. And so the fact that these women had each other's backs, like, that was incredible. And I hope it's something that, like, will trickle more into society, that all women realize, like, hey, there are unfair aspects of our society. We do need to have each other's backs in those situations. So yes, like, in those situations, like, sure, I'm gonna put a hand out to another woman and make sure that she knows that I'm there for her too. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's really great. And I support that all the way.
Okay, good. Look at that. Okay, James, that was really well said. That was very well said. I just finished talking with Marina earlier today, the organizer of the Women's Alliance, and she would have loved to hear that. So
I love Marina.
Definitely. She's awesome. So yes, this is formed, and we keep going down the list. But before I get to you, is there any picks that really shock you or surprise you? And if you forget the list, I can go through it real quick. And
I remember that list. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, none of them totally shocked me. It was something where, again, in my head, I know these people. I've gotten to know these people really, really well. And so I was playing that game of, like, who are they going to choose? And most of the time in my head, I guessed correctly. I knew who they were going to choose. The only one that was on the table that I was not sure about, and it would have totally changed everything, especially for my game and Trey's game, Roland. Roland was on the fence about choosing Trey, and I knew that he was on the fence about choosing Trey. That could have been a moment in which he went in a totally different direction, but he did. He chose Trey, which is what led to Trey choosing me, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Yes. Yeah.
It's a domino effect, so definitely. So we finish off, and then yes, you get picked second to last, and then you end up picking Erna.
Yeah.
And I think in the show, if I'm not mistaken, somebody was hoping that you would pick them. Who was that?
I mean, they all were. It was very, very tense.
Oh, really? So yeah, you were the second to last pick. To describe, what you're seeing with this last selection, with everyone's faces and whatnot.
Yeah, it was painful. I mean, I loved all of those guys, and I was looking literally. I mean, I had to stare at all of them as I made that decision. And I mean, there were so many people. I mean, Dan, who was my captain, great guy, love him so much, incredible. Ginu and Chaz, who are two of my favorite people in the game as well. They were all staring at me. And it was such a hard moment of being like, I have to make this decision. But also the other side of it was that before I went up there, I knew who I was going to choose. It wasn't something that I had to think too hard about. I knew that I was going to choose Perna. He's an incredibly inspirational person. He's someone who grew up in a situation that most people cannot even imagine, growing up as a refugee in Nepal. And my students, many of them, like I said, are from North Korea, and they left North Korea as refugees, and they know what it is to grow up in that situation. And I knew if I was going to have anybody up there with me, that if I was going to be able to help anybody win this game, I wanted it to be someone that my students would see and be inspired by. And I was like, there's no question I'm going to choose Perna. He inspires me, and I know he'll inspire my students too.
Oh, that's so awesome, man. That's heart-wrenching right now. Heartfelt, and definitely, shows the truth that you standing by your word, and you, man, that's definitely down for the cause that you, that you have stated with, and That's very honorable and, noble of you to take that stance and stick to it and not, falter at any means. So high respect for that, and much respect. And yes, so Perna is picked last, and then for the rest of the guys out there, 11 of them are shoot away. And I will ask this too. I've asked this before. What's your take on the atmosphere and vibe and, things when they all find out they're eliminated and getting ready to leave?
They were not happy. Yeah, those 11 guys, and I understand it was a sucky situation. They were upset and they felt cheated in some ways, but I think it's just part of the game, Like, even if I was a part of those 11 guys, like, yes, I would have been sad. I mean, all of us were sad when we got out in the games, but it was just one of those situations that you can't really do anything about it. It's just how everything came into effect.
Did any of them say anything on their way out that upsetted you?
No, not when they were leaving. Yeah, they couldn't directly say anything to us. They literally, the guards, they took them away. It wasn't until later that I was able to learn some of the other extent of their anger. But that doesn't come until later. Yeah.
Well, I've had a couple people up in here like Chad 221, and I talked to Chad 26286 and someone else, Genu. Genu as well. And so they gave me on your podcast, they gave a breakdown of what was happening and things that was said, and I was shocked. So if you want to hear some other things that people heard, check out those 3 podcasts. Whew, it's a lot. It's a lot. But we move on. Yeah. So now it's top 20 people. Congrats. James is seeing it in his eyes. It's getting real. And then it is time for, it's Glass Bridge. They give a little montage of that. And so before we get there, though, we have to go in the white room. And they say they have this black curtain over this item. What do you think is under this black curtain?
Literally had no clue. Had no idea what that was going to be. We all were just like, what is it?
Well, we find out, and it is a claw machine with teddy bears, and the rules are you pick a bear, and then that number you give to someone else. Very interesting. Very interesting. So you get number 15. And you receive number 15. They don't show who gave it to you, though. They go through it real quick.
And they show the number. They show it very quickly. They have a little.
They do it real quick.
Getting the numbers, then giving them to each person.
Okay. So who gave you 15?
So we all went down the line, of course, and I had to go get the bear first and then give the number before the number was eventually given to me. That happened later on. So do you want to know who I gave my number to?
Yes, we want to know because it was not shown, not from my notes.
Yes, yeah, it was really fast. So you had to I of course was looking for it because we were all looking for ourselves while we were watching the show. It was kind of interesting because I was in the first part of the line. And so everybody very early on, like the first bears that were gotten, like that are shown, they were very low numbers. And I was actually the first one when I did the claw machine to get one of the bears that had a higher number. I got number 12. And so it was another one of those moments where I was like, okay, I have a good number. I can help someone. I wish that I could have helped Perna. I mean, he ended up, of course, making it. But yeah, Ashley had already given Perna his number, which was 6. And so I wish that I could have given him 12 to give him a better way of hopefully continuing. Thankfully, it did work out for him. But I had number 12, which was a good number. And so I ended up giving that to Rose, the sweetest person.
Oh, you did. She was very, very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Mama TC. She's coming on here tomorrow, I believe, or Sunday. I cannot remember which day, but she's coming on here soon.
She's amazing. Absolutely incredible person. Another person that I'm just like, she's just so kind, so genuine. And I even said, we all got to give speeches that they don't show necessarily in the show, but I held it up and I said, this is a number that I think we would all want. It's a good number. It's more than halfway, of course, because there were 20 and that's 12. So you didn't want to be in the earlier numbers. And it was in the later numbers. And so I was like, I want to give this to someone who I think will be able to do well with it. And so I gave it to her, and she did. She did do well with it.
She did well with it. Very nice of you. So we enter the glass bridge. So when you walk in there and see everything, what's going through your head?
Oh, I, again, was blown away. That was the coolest set of all of them, I think, for myself. I thought it was absolutely incredible. It was terrifying. We were up super high, but I was just so impressed because that was something where, like, even when you watch other people who have tried to, like, recreate the games from Squid Game, like the original show, that's one that's always kind of disappointing. It's a hard game to recreate because in the original show, it was CGI. It wasn't a real, of course, super high glass bridge. But they built it. Like, we literally were on a bridge that was way up. It worked. You could fall. I mean, down below, it was high, but you would fall into, like, it was almost like a bounce castle kind of below, where it was just this, like, inflated material. And if you were to fall through, you would go into that. I'm guessing you've had some other people who have spoken. Have you been told what actually ended up happening?
But no one said it on the podcast, though. No one has said that on the podcast. So if you care to share, go ahead.
I'm not going to tell that information then.
Oh, it's not a secret.
Yo, I don't want Netflix coming for me.
Okay, fine. We'll keep that a mystery and for others to tell. But yes, it was very cool and it was lit. Watching it, I know it. The TV was not doing it justice. So definitely it was cool.
Yeah.
So it's time to get the game started. Everyone, TJ gives another speech, and then Roland proposes everyone take one turn, so each player has a 50-50 chance that has a lower number. Are you on board with this plan?
Yes. Of course, I had a later number. I was number 15, and so I felt more confident. I was like, oh, I feel like I'll definitely make it in this game. So I was, supportive. Of course, I felt bad for, like, the earlier numbers, but I was like, this is a way that it can be more fair, I was jealous of everyone who was after me because that meant that 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 were not going to have to make any steps. Yeah, so they got lucky in that game, and I just happened to be the person that had to make the last one.
Yeah, so we get moving. TJ jumps, falls, gone. Chaz jumps, falls, gone.
Sad.
Very sad, actually. Everyone's faces shows it. Except, not everybody was upset about TJ falling. There was a couple non-sad.
I was sad. We all were just blown away. It was just one of those moments where he was, like, such a big character, and then it's just like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, definitely. Trey is next, and he makes it. And then Marina agrees to overtake Trey, and she is gone. So then it's Ashley's turn, and she says Marina was stupid as hell. Ashley is behind Trey now, and Trey just starts jumping and doesn't, just start going. So what is your take of this whole little debacle?
It's such an interesting thing that happened because in the show they really, with the editing, make it seem like he was looking back at Ashley, waiting for Ashley to go, but it truly wasn't like that in the moment. I don't know what happened. There was just this instance in which Trey just kind of, I don't know, had a bit of a power trip. I love Trey. He's one of my brothers, he's just someone who is absolutely incredible, genuine. But in that moment, I think he was just trying to think like, I want to win this game. I want to get to the very end of the bridge and I can make every single one. And so he just kept going. And it wasn't something where, like, he was asking Ashley, like, to overtake him. It was more of just like Ashley being like, oh, if you're going to go, I'm going to let you, which anyone would do. Truly, anyone would do that in that situation. And so for all the people who are hating on Ashley out there, you have no reason to do that. She literally just was vibing and he was just going for it. He was taking every jump. And there was even a moment that was, like, not shown in the show where he, like, looked back and he was like, what number do you think my mom would have gotten? And all of us were just like, what? What do you mean? Yeah, but then, yeah, he went, made it, and then went one more time, and that was the end.
That was the end for Trey. Come on now, Trey. You smarter than that, boy. What was you thinking?
Honestly, you can even hear me, like, in, like, if you have the subtitles, it shows you in the show. I'm like, Trey, no, Trey, what are you doing, Trey? because it was like we were all shocked. We couldn't believe that he just
Yeah.
kept trying to go.
He lost himself in the music once his mom wasn't there to help guide him anymore. So
Honestly.
maybe that was it.
He's gonna be back with his mom.
Oh, wait, I'm just kidding, Trey. I'm just messing with you. We're just kidding. So we continue with the jumping of the steps, and what am I missing? Hold on. We continue with the jumping of the steps. Yeah, I mean Trey goes and eventually falls. Then Elliot says everyone has to make a 50-50 decision. Easy for him to say because he's in the back. That's all. I just had a note on that.
Yeah.
And we continue. Then Ashley picks. She's correct. 31 picks. She's correct. She? No, he. Who's 31?
I think, is that Elliot? No, I don't.
No, Elliot's 2. Okay, 31 picks. Yeah, 31 picks in a save. Jackie picks next and is wrong. She's eliminated. Roland picks safe. Elliot picks safe. Phil picks safe. Chad picks safe. Rose picks safe. Siobhan picks not safe. She is eliminated.
That was sad.
Mikey picks eliminated.
Also
then
sad.
it is down to the last one, and this is where our friend James has to take front or center hold. Now, James, you are a man. Like, look, you wasn't going to be like, okay, I'm not going. But, man.
I thought
what's
about
going on in your head? What's going on in your head this last one?
I had a lot going through my mind. B, of course, was right there encouraging me. There was part of me that thought, should I say, no, I'm not going to go and make somebody else do it for me? And there was even one moment, they don't show this in the show at all. Mai said, I want to go. I'm going to make a jump. I want to do it. And she was going to do it. She was going to make the last one. But then Chad told her not to. He was like, don't do it. And then she said, Chad doesn't want me to do it. And so that was like another just like dynamic where I was like, do you want to? Yeah. I didn't say that, of course, because also I was worried about Mai. I wanted Mai to go far in the game as well. And yeah, it was one of those situations where I had a choice where I could either be that person to say like, no, I'm not going to do this, or I could try to take that jump for my friends. And in the end, I was like, my students are watching this, I don't want to be the person that's going to make somebody else potentially go out. I'll be willing to take that last jump. I'll do that for them. I'll make a way for my friends. And so, yeah, I mean, it was super dramatic. I along the way got to hug everyone, which I loved. I loved getting to have those final moments with them, which was super kind, super sweet. And finally I got to that last step and I was really nervous. And I did. I mean, that show, like everything you saw was so genuine. That moment where I look back and I said, left or right, which one should I pick? And she yelled right. And right when she yelled it, that's what I was going for. I was like, I'm going to choose right, And I jumped with all my might. And right when I landed, and then I heard player 269, you have been eliminated. I literally just went, no! And that was it. That was just the end. And I could hear Mai crying in the background. And I was
heartbreaking. The heart and soul of the show, which the edit did not give enough time to, is gone. Sadly, everyone is distraught and just hurting right now, including myself.
It was sad. It was really sad.
Yeah.
And Trey was so mad when he saw me later on. He was ticked. He was like, I gave you such a high number. Why? How did you get out? Yeah, but I was so happy to get to react with like all of the people who of course had gotten out in that game. All great people. I got to reunite with Trey, TJ, Jackie, Chaz, Javon, everyone. Yeah.
Well, James, you did an amazing job. I say you definitely affected a lot of people, including myself, in a very positive way. You're a light shining in the room, man, and that just goes to show how good of a person you are and how good of a soul and spirit that you have. And I highly, highly admire that, trying to be a better person just like you are. And so you definitely one to look up to in those regards, I'd say. So when you get home back to Korea, what's going through your head?
Well, first, I was hungry. I was ready to eat as much Korean food as I possibly could. After like, yeah, almost a month in London, I was like, give me some flavor, anything. So that was definitely first priority. And just getting back with my friends, getting back into my routine, seeing my students and having good moments because I missed them. I missed them a lot. It was hard being away. I loved it, of
Mhm.
course. I loved the experience, but it was also good to be back in Korea with all of my friends there. And of course, I couldn't tell them about everything that we'd experienced, all of those details. But it's been amazing getting to share that with them now that the show is now out. It's been incredible getting to talk about it with all of them.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I
no,
think
that's
returning to Korea,
awesome.
it was a weird feeling, I think all of us, when we returned back to our worlds, wherever that was in the world, we had this almost just like part of us that was still somewhat in the game. We kept thinking about it. I would think about it often, but having moments with my friends, with my students, was always what grounded me back to reality.
Yeah, no, definitely. You said it. You said it best. There's nothing like being around the people back home that kind of get your head back in, what you truly trying to do in real life and whatnot after a crazy experience like that. Well, James, yeah, that was a crazy ending for you. I mean, 13 out of 200, 13 out of 465 people. I mean, not too many people
456.
can. Or I don't even know what like. It's been a long day. I don't even know what number I said. 456. What did I say?
You said 465. Hey, it was close. You just got the two reversed.
Oh my gosh, James, it's been a long day, man. It has
I
been a
feel
long week. I mean, I'm getting through it though. I'm getting through it. But
it.
yes, out of 456 people, I am highly, impressed. I mean, like I said, you're such a great person, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I could just tell that by just having one conversation with you. And I can't wait, when we get to finally meet up in person again, because I have not seen you in person since the show. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I know it's going to be a great time. And hopefully it's soon, very soon.
Yes,
We're going to try
yes.
and make that happen. I'm going to do my best for you because I got you. And yeah, man, you got any parting words for the people?
I would just say, hey guys, live with hope, make genuine friendships, get to know people, and be kind. Be kind to each other.
Be kind. Couldn't have said it better myself. Couldn't have heard it from a better person myself. James, I love you, man. You awesome. We will talk very, very soon. Until next time, y'all, I appreciate you joining me so much. And we going to get out of here. Peace and blessings.
Peace with hope. I'm James.